Some doors are meant to be forgotten. Some secrets are meant to stay buried. But curiosity, it's a dangerous thing. This is the story of Daniel Carter, a man who made one mistake. He opened a door that should have stayed closed. Daniel wasn't superstitious. He didn't believe in ghosts, curses, or the kind of stories people whisper about old houses. He was a logical man, a man of reason. But reason, it can't always protect you. It started when he inherited the house. His uncle had died under unusual circumstances. The will was clear. Daniel was now the owner of a place he had never visited, a house that no one in town dared to speak about. When he arrived, the first thing he noticed was the silence. Not just any silence. A heavy, unnatural silence. No birds. No wind. Just stillness. The house was old, too old. The floors creaked beneath his feet like they were whispering to him. Dust covered everything, untouched, as if the house had been waiting. And in a way, it had. His uncle had lived here alone. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. But Daniel, he wasn't so sure. He spent the first day exploring. Room by room, he uncovered fragments of a life long abandoned. Faded photographs, old books with pages too fragile to turn, locked drawers that refused to give up their secrets. But then, there was the door. A door that didn't belong. At first, he almost missed it. Tucked away at the end of a narrow hallway, barely visible in the dim light. But once he saw it, he couldn't look away. It was different from the others. The wood was darker, heavier, carved with strange, uneven marks. And the lock, it was broken. Not recently. No, it had been forced open long ago. Something about it made his skin crawl. The air in the hallway was colder here. He told himself it was just an old house, bad insulation, but his body knew better. The instinct buried deep inside him screamed to walk away. He didn't listen. The door groaned as it opened, like it was protesting. Inside, nothing but darkness. He stepped in, slowly, cautiously. The air was thick, damp, like the breath of something waiting. He fumbled for a light, and when the dim glow of his flashlight flickered to life, he wished he had never looked. It was small. Windowless. The walls, covered in handprints. Not painted. Not drawn. No, pressed into the wood itself. Like the hands had been burned into the surface, as if someone, or something, had been trapped here, pounding, desperate to get out. In the farthest corner, a chair sat facing the wall. Not dusty like the rest of the room. No, it looked like someone had been sitting in it yesterday. And then, the smell hit him. Rot. Decay. Something old, and something wrong. Then came the whisper. Soft at first. So soft he thought he had imagined it. Daniel. His heart pounded. He turned, swinging his flashlight across the empty room. Nothing. No one. But the air had changed. It felt heavier. Closer. Daniel. This time, it came from behind him. He spun around, breath catching in his throat. The chair was empty. The room was still. But he wasn't alone. He could feel it. And then, something moved. He ran. Slamming the door behind him, locking it, as if that could keep whatever was inside from following. His hands were shaking, his breathing ragged. He told himself it was just his mind playing tricks on him. Stress. Fatigue. Nothing more. But that night, the dreams came. Flashes of faces, eyes wide with terror, mouths open in silent screams. Shadows stretching across the walls, reaching for him. And the whispers, always the whispers. He woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. But the worst part. The door, the one he had locked, was open. The next day, he went into town, searching for answers. The locals wouldn't speak to him. They refused. But in the library, buried in the archives, he found it. The truth. A woman named Margaret Holloway once lived in that house. A caretaker. A woman who looked after 4 orphan children. Until they vanished. No bodies were ever found. No explanations. Just a single locked room, and a woman who swore she heard their voices every night. A woman who, in the end, took her own life. And now, the room belonged to Daniel. He tried to leave that night. He packed his things, threw his bags into the car. But as he turned the key in the ignition, he heard it. Not from inside the house, but from the back seat. A whisper. Daniel. Some doors should never be opened. What would you have done? Would you have opened the door? Or would you have left, never looking back? Some questions are better left unanswered. Subscribe, if you dare.